friends and welcome to Obsidian Soft. In today's class, we will make a camera app using which we can take pictures. We will also add image viewing features to it so that we can look at all the images taken through our app's camera. Let's have a look at the demo. Let's begin. Go to Projects, start a new project and call it My Camera without spaces. First of all, upload images for camera button, first, previous, next and last image buttons. Okay. Okay, all the 5 images have been uploaded. I will give a link to these images in the video description. I have also resized these images to be 50 by 50 pixels. Now for screen 1's properties, make the background dark gray and the screen orientation portrait. Also make sure that the default file scope is set to app. Change the title text to My Camera. Drag and drop from user interface an image onto the viewer. For the image properties, make the height fill parent and make the width also fill parent. And make sure that scale picture to fit is checked. Drag and drop a horizontal arrangement from layout below this image. Make align horizontal center, align vertical center. Make the height 15% and the width fill parent. Now drag and drop from user interface a button onto this horizontal arrangement. Rename it to Camera Button and choose in the image property the camera image. Remove the text from it. Add a 1% label on the right of this camera button. This is for spacing. So remove the text from it and make the width 1%. Now select this camera button and duplicate it by pressing Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V for Windows or Command+C, Command+V for MacBook. Now rename it to First Button and change the image accordingly to the first button image. Okay, and as you can see that the space has come here, but we want it between the 2 buttons. Okay, so make sure that the space label is between the buttons. Okay, now similarly add all the other buttons with space in between. Now you might have trouble adding the last button, so what I normally do is that I change the display to tablet size and now it's easier to add the button. So the buttons have been added. Camera button, the first button that will take us to see the first image in our list of images. Previous, go to the next image, and this will take us to the last image in our collection of images. Okay, and all of these buttons have a 1% label between them that is empty. Now the most important thing, from media, drag and drop a camera component, and from storage, drag and drop a TinyDB component. This is for storing our images information. Now the screen design is done, so let's go to the block section. Let me first explain how the camera component works in MIT App Inventor. So if I choose camera here, you will see that it has one event and one procedure. So this procedure, as the name suggests, we are going to call when we want the camera to take the picture, and this event will be triggered once the picture has been taken by the camera. Okay, so when the camera button is pressed or clicked, we want our camera component to take the picture. And we know that this event will be triggered once the picture has been taken. But the point to remember here is that this is not a file. That is, this is not the digital image. It is the location at which the image has been stored. Okay? The image address and not the actual image. Okay? So you have to remember this thing. What we are going to do is that after every picture is taken by our camera, we are going to store this image address in a list. And we will store this list further in the TinyDB so that when the app is opened at some other time, we are able to see all the images that have been taken previously by our app. Okay? So we need a global variable for our images list. So go to variables, initialize global variable, call it images list, make it empty. So create empty list block from lists. We also need a global variable for maintaining the index or position within this list so that we know which image should be shown when the next, previous, first or last buttons are clicked. Okay? So let's duplicate this and make it image index. And this is not a list. This is a number which is equal to 1. Now let's work on our cameras after picture event. Okay, this one. We will store the new image address in our images list. So let's get add items to list block from lists. And the list is our images list. And the item is this image address. We will further store this images list in the TinyDB. So, TinyDB, call store value, and the tag, we can say images here, and the values to store is our images list. Okay? Next, within the same event, what we want to do is that we want to update our image index to the size of the images list, because we want to always show the newest image to the user when we go back after the picture has been taken. So for that, we have to set our image index to the length of our global images list. So if I go to lists, I can get the length of list block and I can get the global images block and give it to the length of list block. Okay? Now we are going to make a procedure for setting the image components, this image component's picture value to the actual digital picture, because we will be doing it again and again whenever the next, previous, last button is pressed. So it's better to make a procedure. Okay? So let's go to procedures and make this procedure, and we are going to call it show picture. Okay? And what is inside it? We are going to set our image 1, the component, picture, to a selection from the list, where the list is the global images list and the index is our image index. Okay? And we have to call this procedure in our after picture event. Okay? So here, go to procedures and call show picture. And as we have updated the index to become the last index for our list, newest image will be shown when the show picture procedure is called. Okay? Now let's work on a screen initialize event, that is when the app is started. So from screen 1, get the screen 1 initialize event. And the first thing we should do is that we should get the images, that is their locations, from our TinyDB. So go to TinyDB and get the get value block and get the setter of images list and plug this in here. And we have to remember that our tag is images. make sure that the spelling is exactly the same, and value of tag is not there, that is no picture has been taken, so no images information, so return an empty list. Now we have two situations. If no picture has been taken using our camera, this means that an empty list will be returned. Okay, so in that case, what should we do? We should take the user directly to the screen where he can take the picture. Okay, so we will call the procedure take picture of the camera component. Otherwise, we will show the first image in our list. Okay, so from control, get the if then else block, and what we're going to do is that we're going to go to maths and get the equal to block and get the length of list block and give it the images list, and if it is equal to 0, we are going to go to camera and call camera take picture. In the other situation, what we are going to do is that we are going to call show picture, and remember that our image index was initialized to be 1, so automatically the first image in our images collection will be shown. Okay. Another important thing to do for Android devices is to rotate the image 90 degrees, and you don't have to do it for iPhone. Go to image 1 and set the rotation angle to a maths block of 90 degrees. Okay, this has to be done only for Android devices if you're testing it on Android or installing it on Android. Okay, now let's work on our position buttons. So the first button, when the first button is clicked, we are going to set our global index, image index, to 1 because we want to show the first image in our list, and we are going to call show picture. Okay, for our last button, so let's duplicate this and choose last button. Now in this situation, what we are going to do is that we are going to make it equal to the length of the list, that is, we want to show the last image in our images list. Okay. Now what will happen when the next button is pressed? Okay, so when the next button is clicked, what we're going to do is we're going to add a 1 to this index. Okay, and then we are going to check if our image index has become greater than the length of our images list. If it has, then this is wrong, so we are going to put it back to the length of the list, and then we will call show picture. Okay, so let's do the code. So first we are going to set our image index to a plus block from maths, and on this side we get the previous value of image index and we add a 1 to it, and then we check. So get the if then block from control, and here we are going to check using the greater than block from math. So get the equal to block and choose greater than from here, and on the left hand side we have the global image index, and on the right hand side we are going to compare it to the length of the list, the images list. Okay, so if the image index has now become greater than the images list size or length after adding a 1 to it, then this means that this is wrong. So we are going to set it back to this value. Okay, so you can duplicate it from here. Okay, and in the end, outside the if block, we are going to call our show picture procedure. Now duplicate this next button click event and choose previous. And in previous, we are going to do a subtraction, that is the opposite. And we're going to subtract a 1 from the image index, and we will check if our image index has now become less than 1, okay? Which is also wrong. I mean, if the image index has become 0, then how can we show that image? Okay? That will throw an error. So if it is less than 1, we are going to set it back to 1 and show that image by calling the show picture procedure, okay? And make sure that the show picture procedure is not inside this if block and this if block. It is outside, okay? Let's clean up the code. So this is done, and I hope you like this tutorial. Do share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly do so that you don't miss any of the great things that I have planned for you. Thank you for watching my video. Have a good day and goodbye.